I've made a lot of heavily seasoned and complex dishes in the last few months. There's been no shortage of braised meats and heavy sauces, so I think it's time I share with you a recipe that's a little more subtle and incredibly simple. There are hundreds of styles of teriyaki online, all with different levels of sweetness, spice, and thickness. Teriyaki, and more specifically chicken teriyaki, is proof that often recipes are so much more than the sum of their parts. With just 5 ingredients for the entire dish, it's about as simple as it gets. The obvious starting place for the dish is the sauce, so I wanted to take a quick detour to explain why this works so well. There are only 4 ingredients and all of the liquids will be in equal parts: dark soy sauce, mirin, and sake. If you don't use dark soy sauce regularly, it's actually less salty than light soy sauce, or what you most likely have for everyday use. It's darker in color and arguably more flavorful, but works better for sauces as you can use more of it without over-seasoning the dish. Sake is a rice wine that will help balance the deep richness of the dark soy sauce. Don't worry about the alcohol, we'll cook that out later. Mirin is a sweetened Japanese cooking rice wine that mellows out the salty richness of the soy sauce. That, in part with the sugar, pulls what would be a dark, rich, heavy sauce into something more balanced. We start with 3 tablespoons of dark soy, add 3 tablespoons of sake, and 3 tablespoons of mirin. We'll finish it off with 1 teaspoon of sugar, and it is good to go. With our sauce done, it's time to turn our eyes towards the chicken. I'm going to be using an entire chicken leg that includes the drumstick and the thigh, but I want it to be boneless. In all honesty, this could be boneless, skinless chicken thigh, and it would be just as good. So there are 2 bones in the leg that can be removed with just a few cuts. The main step is running your knife along both sides of the bone until you can easily grab the thigh bone with your fingers. Lift it up just enough to slide your knife with the blade side pointing away from the drumstick. Slide your knife through, and you have the thigh bone basically completely free. Follow that lifted bone and continue cutting the meat away from the bone. You can pretty easily pull the bone away using your hand if needed. The final cut is just slicing off the tip of the drumstick. This last step is probably the most important and often overlooked. It's removing the tendons. If you've ever eaten a drumstick, you know there are some tendons that can kind of be hard and weird to chew through. They're easily located though, as they look like white rubber bands and are mostly on the drumstick side. Do your best to remove those and you'll have a much better final product. When you take the bones out of a chicken leg, you basically end up with one massive piece of dark meat. It is amazing. So season your chicken lightly with salt and let it sit in the fridge for an hour, or use it right away if you don't have that time. Letting it sit is going to allow the salt to fully penetrate the meat, but it's going to be covered in sauce in the end, so it's kind of up to you. Now we're going to get a pan over medium heat and drop in the chicken skin side down. We want this first side to take on some really nice golden brown color. This will take probably about 7 minutes or so. After that, we'll flip the chicken and continue cooking until it's fully cooked, about 7 to 10 minutes. Once it's fully cooked, take the chicken out of the pan to rest and pour in the teriyaki sauce. Over medium heat, we're going to bring the sauce to a boil and let it thicken slightly. Add the chicken back and constantly flip it over until we have it well coated in the sauce. The flipping is going to basically baste it in the sauce as we go. I like to bring the sauce to a really thick but not yet glazed texture. You can make it as thick as you want, but be careful not to burn it. Because of the sugar and the soy, that can happen pretty quickly. When you're done, I always like to slice the chicken before serving. This goes perfectly with a massive bowl of rice and some scallions to garnish. The juice from the chicken combined with the sauce coat the rice in such an addicting way. The sauce itself will have a nice punch of salt and richness from the soy, but it will be mellowed out by the sweetness of the sugar and the mirin. The sake plays a similar role to white wine in other dishes, bringing some much needed brightness. Overall, the flavor sings in a way that almost doesn't make sense on paper. It really shows you how beautiful simple things can be. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. As a quick life update, my wife and I just moved from Dallas to Seattle, so expect a new kitchen in the background, as well as maybe some fun Seattle restaurant food type content. Cheers!